Okay, folks, there's a hazard involved in getting a little bit too deep into fiction, movies, media, um, books, stories, music, poems, etc. And it's that you can get so caught up in the specifics and particulars of human subjective lives that you lose sight of the basic fundamentals of human nature, such as that maybe most people who are not naturally all that inclined toward saintliness or heroic virtue are going to be self-interested, okay? In a modern sort of market-based society, people are going to be socialized into preserving and advancing their own selfish interests at the expense of the sort of greater well-being of society in some ways, okay? If you want to be differentiated from just a normal person who produces and consumes in a city without really doing anything morally significant, you're going to have to make a conscious decision to shape yourself into something different. And you'll have to properly anticipate all the costs involved in that, You may deal with phases of poverty, disrepute, and even homelessness or something if you're really grinding away on becoming exceptional in ways that don't immediately profit you. You're not stupid for doing things that mess with your material security, but you could just be somebody with overclocked moral idealism, which themselves can have roots in really intense emotional states that form the foundation for value judgments that are not perceptible to the naked eye and not revealed in everyday banter. But I was on Twitter at one point and I encountered something that hasn't left my mind since I saw it, even though I do my best to try to ignore these sorts of harsh truths. It said something like, a millionaire understands what people want, but a billionaire understands what people are. And I myself have been, a broke boy for pretty much all of my life. And I've just gotten into the game of working regularly thanks to supplements and caffeinated beverages. And prior to my having consistently taken these, I hadn't been able to work regularly, so I was just a daydreaming fool with moral ideals that he couldn't really put into practice in his life in various ways. So this is all to say that if your aim is to be successful in material terms more than in, say, moral or spiritual terms, maybe you would benefit from just studying and accustoming yourself to the notion of like rational self-interest, okay? I would not advise you to read something like The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand. I actually think objectivist ideology has, in subtle and coarse ways, corrupted the culture within the United States and made people less and less like tzaddiks or less and less Christ-like. But it's important to just not lose sight of kind of the basic selfishness of most people who are not socialized into cultivating their inner heroes and their sort of inner moral saints, okay? No matter how good your intentions are, you cannot lose sight of the ordinary, coarse, base, material, gritty, harsh reality of human self-interest. It took me a very long time to be able to move smartly in most environments I permeate. And that was because I kept forcibly bludgeoning my mind with moral ideals and positive and even utopian visions that got in the way of my raw experience and an honest reading of what was happening to me, which is that I wasn't approaching people as though they were self-interested first. I was approaching them as though they could be collaborators on some grand moral mission that I probably formed from watching too many examples of heroic, solitary, badass, stoic male characters in the fiction pieces I loved since childhood. So, this is all to say that to move smartly in terms that maximize your biological longevity or, your access to resources that may be well worth coveting in certain contexts, you can never lose sight of human self-interest. Okay? I hate postulating this, but it's just a harsh reality of the world. In order to become street smart, regardless of your level of real world experience right now, you not only need to collide into harsh situations and trauma and information about tragedies and atrocities and people who are too optimistic, you also have to constantly keep in mind that the worse the economy gets, the more people are going to be mutated in favor of low trust mindsets, behaviors, plans, and actions. And you can't lose sight of the kind of rational, survival-based self-interest of the sort of morally compromised or spiritually lukewarm person. Okay? Let me summarize this concisely. To survive for long, never lose sight of self-interest. Never lose sight of basic human self-interest. Alright. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Oh, and on that note, know when to hide your intelligence. Some of you may have to spend your entire lifetime concealing the true depth and ferocity of your intellectual powers in order to survive in one piece and live life on your own terms. I know well what that is like. Okay? There's nothing wrong with concealing your abilities if every time you try to plant the seeds of some pro-social project in your life, they get plucked and thrown into a volcanic pit by someone who's demonically driven by narrow-minded, egotistical status seeking in your presence. Alright, that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you for watching and have a good day. And God bless you.